Staff Hearing Officer meeting of September 4th, 2024. We will begin with preliminary matters. Ms. Gu, do we have any requests for continuances, withdrawals, postponements, or addition of ex-agenda items?
No, we do not have any requests. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. The next item is item B1. This is an announcement for 1102 Luneta Plaza. This is for a coastal development permit for an accessory dwelling unit on this property. The application under the jurisdiction of Staff Hearing Officer today for this project is a coastal development permit and a determination that the project is categorically exempt. Pursuant to Santa Barbara Municipal Code 2844110, when a proposed development involves an addition of an accessory dwelling unit to an existing single-family residence, the application is reviewed by Staff Hearing Officer without a public hearing. Staff Hearing Officer shall not issue a decision on the application until at least 10 calendar days after notice has been provided to the public, and there was a notice to the public, and it has been at least 10 days. Staff Hearing Officer may receive and consider written comments from the public, but without a public meeting. Public comment received for this meeting was processed and posted on the city website. Ms. Gu, can you share the correspondence we received on this item from the public?
We received public comments from Darrell Bernstein, Brad Froley, Patricia Stark, Georgia Strickland, and Robert and Cindy Perlis.
Very good, thank you. So I did review the public comment. I went out to the site, read the staff report. Much of the public comment is with regard to the use of the existing principal residence on the property as a short-term rental. The staff report includes findings and conditions, and I do have a change to one of the conditions in the staff report. So that's the recorded agreement condition under Community Development Department. Under subsection 2 of that, it says the accessory dwelling unit shall not be rented for less than 31 days. The change to that would be for consistency with Santa Barbara Municipal Code, section 2886040B, that regards accessory dwelling units. That section says the primary dwelling unit also cannot be rented for less than 31 days. So the language change would be both the primary dwelling unit and the accessory dwelling unit shall not be rented for less than 31 consecutive days. So with that change and the other conditions of approval outlined in the staff report dated August 28th, 2024, this project is approved. This decision is the final action of the city. It's not appealable to the city pursuant to the code. It is appealable to the California Coastal Commission, however, within 10 working days of this decision. And that concludes that announcement. Thank you. And Ms. Gu, do we have any comments from members of the public pertaining to items not on this agenda?
We have not received any public comment for items not on the agenda, either written or submitted. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you. So we will continue to the projects. The first one being 1295 Kenwood Road. Ms. Kelly Brodison is the planner for this project. So this project is for a front setback modification to allow an as-built addition to encroach into the secondary front setback. Ms. Brodison. And Ms. Gu, if you could switch over to Ms. Brodison's laptop, that would be great. And if the applicant could introduce yourself as well.
Scott Branch, architect for the project.
Thank you. Go ahead, Ms. Brodison.
Let me just pull this up real quick.
Good morning, Mr. Gullett. Thank you for the introduction. Yes, Kelly Brodison with Community Development. The project I'm presenting today is located at 1295 Kenwood It is located in the RS15 zone, which has 30-foot front setbacks, 30-foot front yard setbacks. And I've zoomed into the corner here where you can kind of see that this property is constrained with 2 front setbacks, one on Kenwood Road, which is the main entrance of the property, and then a secondary setback on Mountain View Road. So the site is 9,500 square feet lot. It's developed with a 1,300 square foot single-family residence and a 440 square foot garage. And the request today is to legalize an as-built addition of approximately 111 square feet that was constructed kind of behind the garage as a laundry room. When the applicants built the addition, they encroached into the 30-foot front setback. So a zoning mod is required to legalize that addition and to allow the addition to encroach into the front setback. As I stated earlier, the property has 2 front setbacks, and this property qualifies for a reduction in the setback, 5 feet total from the 30 feet, because the average natural slope of the area within 50 feet of the front lot line is more than 20%. Therefore, the reduction is 25 feet. The setback is 25 feet from the property line, which reduces the encroachment to 3.5 inches. So, as I said, the site is constrained with 2 front setbacks on both sides and steep topography along the southern portion of the site. And the existing structure is already nonconforming to the front setback on Kenwood. So, staff supports this encroachment because the site is constrained and it is a minor encroachment of 3.5 inches. So the project did go to design review for a fence. However, that fence is not under the purview of the staff hearing officer today. And staff did an environmental assessment of the property and determined that the project is exempt from further environmental review by section 15301. And with that, staff recommends that the staff hearing officer approve the project, making the findings in the staff report. I will let Mr. Branch make a presentation if you'd like to, or do you want to have access to the plans, or do you want to?
I think you've summed it up. It's pretty simple. 3.5 inches encroached into the secondary front setback, so that's why we're here.
Very good. Thank you both. Ms. Gu, do we have any public comment?
For this particular item, we have not any public comments submitted for this.
And do we have any speakers on this item?
No, we do not. I don't have any speaker slips for this particular item. Thank you.
Very good. And I did review the staff report, the plans. I went out to the site and concur with the staff's recommended findings, the environmental findings and the findings from the modification. And with that, I'd approve the project. Ms. Gu, if we could bring up the appeal slide. And this decision is appealable to the Planning Commission. Appeals can be filed in person at Community Development Department, 630 Garden Street, or by email at the email address on the screen. If that happens, your planner would contact you, Mr. Branch. And with that, I conclude this item. Thank you very much.
Okay. Thanks, Dan. Thanks, Kelly.
Okay, moving on to item 2B, 2050 Garden Street. This project is for a front setback modification to allow an accessory dwelling unit and required access to encroach into the secondary front setback on Padre Street. And Mr. William Russell is here as the staff planner for this project and will be speaking to the project. And if the applicant team would introduce themselves.
Barbara Lowenthal, Harrison Design Project Manager.
Thank you.
Anthony Grumbine, Harrison Design Architect.
Thank you. And when you're ready, Mr. Russell. Ms. Gu, could you switch computers, please?
Thank you, Mr. Gullett. This is 2050 Garden Street. This is a proposal for a 881 square foot ADU above the existing 2-car garage. The project requires a modification to allow an interior access stair to encroach into the secondary front setback by 6 feet. So just to give you some context from where the home and project is situated, it's near the Mission, kind of on the Upper East Side. It is on the cross street of Garden and Padre Street, kind of large lot. It's located in a historic Mission District area, and it's also one of the 5 homes of the Crocker residents there. And so just kind of give you some site context. The garage in the rear is what the project is proposing today, that ADU. So this is the existing site plan here. I would like to take note of the existing encroachments into the Padre Street front setback there. So this is the garage in question in the rear. That's being proposed to have an ADU above it. This is the proposed site plan. So this is the encroachment of that interior stair into that secondary front setback there. The modification is required to that front setback, and again, it's just 6 feet, so it is in line with the existing encroachments. The main home was remodeled in 2009, and actually a lot merger was done in 2009 as well to restore the main home to the historic nature it was originally. It was designed by Arthur Page Brown for Mary Ann Crocker. So, and again, note the same distance here. And then I think another thing that's important for the modification is that this design promotes the symmetry of the existing front facade of the main home. So this is a proposed this is the existing elevation, and then I'll go to the proposed. So the proposed, this west side of the home, or left side of the screen here, is that proposed access stair. So it highlights the symmetry of the main residence, and also that parapet of the main residence as well. So design is a key important factor here. One other thing that factored into the modification request is if the interior stair was to be located elsewhere, either in the rear or interior yard setback, it would have required multiple modifications. It would have thrown off the design and highlighted the asymmetry of this building as well. And this was reviewed by the Historic Landmarks Commission, and they spoke positively about it and spoke to the fact that this kept the same street line and facade of the existing encroachments along Padre Street there. So staff believes staff has reviewed the project per SEQA requirements, and determined the project is exempt from further environmental review under section 15303. And I think that concludes staff presentation, and if the applicant would like to speak, I can turn it over to you.
That's good. Thank you, Mr. Russell. Mr. Grumbine or Ms. Lowenthal?
Sure. Do you want to start? I can jump in as well.
Sure, I'll start. We were very careful in designing this ADU for our clients. If you look at the roof plan, you'll see it's a fairly complicated roof because we needed to comply with solar access and with other requirements from the city while maintaining cohesion with the original's home architecture and materials and details, which we are doing. The windows that we have on the second level are set for egress so that we meet that requirement. We also meet the solar requirement, and we are in the process of meeting Tier 2 water management requirements on the property. So as it stands with our design, we meet all the requirements that the city has requested of us. Of note, on the second level, the floor plate in the corners is 6 feet. We could have gone higher, but we didn't. We really can't go lower. And we planned it so that was the minimum that we could keep and still have a useful interior for our clients.
For the ADU. And then sort of tack on to that, so part of it as well was, so we did the original
It was a restoration. We did
in
not
that-
add any square feet to the main house.
in 2009, 10. And
7 to 9.
yeah, 7 to 9 for a long time, a couple of years. Did the whole restoration and then bringing the property back. I think there was a few, there were some misconceptions from the public comment to actually what the history of the property was. There was note of a carriage house. It was actually just a house from, I don't know if it was 50s or 60s or whatever, but that was originally torn down, that we tore down and restored the property back to its full size, and then built the new structure, the garage, and none of that area was historic. It was the main house that was the only historic building on the property that has been for the last, 50 years plus. So that was, I just want to make sure that we cleared up some of that confusion. And then the language of it, as was mentioned, the low plate and having dormers that pop up was to be subservient and part of the main house. And as you find a lot of that language in the main house. We studied very carefully the dormers, the proportions, the sizes of windows, everything, so that it really feels like it could have been a carriage house for the main house and is not trying to outdo it as well. And so that was originally for the garage, our study as well. And so we kind of played off that and for doing this ADU and getting the housing in the sort of least impactful way for the neighborhood. And then one other note, I think, was that as partly mentioned, that we were actually also trying to stay within the footprint of the garage. We don't have to. It's not a historic structure. But we have room to go into the side yard setback even, and I believe that ADUs could go even further potentially. But we really were trying to keep it to the tightest footprint of the existing as possible, with just adding the stair on the one side to get up to the residence above. So it was really trying to stay as close and conformed as to the existing footprint, not necessarily to the setbacks as possible, with still stepping into the front to make it all work. And then the last piece was we did also want to be, and I think on maybe Google Earth it shows it the best. If you look at the character of the neighborhood, and the reality is there, as part of the public comment concern of being close and seeing into houses, and that the reality is a lot of these houses, including the other side of the same neighbor's house, are right close together. We actually have a larger than 10-foot setback on our side, and then there's the driveway on their side. So if you kind of hover over, where the ADU is going to be, it's actually one of the farthest distances structure to structure in this street and on this lot. So in terms of like neighborhood conformity and compatibility with neighbors looking into other neighbors' houses, and this is actually a far stretch compared to the norm for this area. So that was also an issue we wanted to bring up. It's as far back as this block gets in terms of distance and space and privacy. So, all right.
Okay, thank you both for your remarks. Ms. Good, do we have public comment on this item?
I believe we do have a speaker slip for someone who submitted for this particular item.
Yes, we do. And I did see one email from the same person, the Trelogans, who live adjacent to this property on Padre Street. So we do have a request to speak from Abby Trelogan, who is in attendance, and Ms. Trelogan. There's a microphone on the podium over there. Sure. There's a button, and our red light comes on.
So to be clear, the carriage house that was there, we understand, was a remodel of an original outbuilding to the Crocker house. So the fact that it morphed through the years, to me, doesn't make it not historical. That whole property is historical. And to me, you're building a second Crocker house on the property in a way. So what we object to is the height and the mass. You're putting a building, an edifice there that has never been there before. That's not historical. I was going to read this, but you've covered quite a bit of it. I also wanted to let you know that on our west side neighbor, that wall, our remodel wall, was not permitted any windows by the ABR in order to preserve the privacy of our neighbor. And we've enjoyed that privacy also. So that's what we were asking, and we haven't suffered from not having windows on the west side. Is there anything else that I haven't covered, Tom, or should I?
Just to clarify, those, on the back side facing our house, 2 large windows.
Sorry, Mr. Trelagan. So the viewing audience can't hear you. So you could also speak. We'll have you fill out a speaker slip in the end if you're finished, Ms. Trelagan. Could continue.
Yes, I'm fine.
Okay.
A couple other items too. If you look at the street, the 2 adjacent Crocker houses have their original outbuildings, which were basically barns built probably in the late 1800s. And that's what was there before, and when the property was subdivided, probably in the 40s. And I think they added a house on top of those original barn-like building. So that's, if you do a restoration, you restore it to like what it was when it was originally built, which wasn't done in this case. But our other concern is the windows, the 2 large windows facing our property, which look right into our living room and into our kitchen, which I've found that the ABR does not allow that modification or that sort of addition to be built. So,
Mind you, our remodel was in 2000, so things may have changed. Who knows? I mean, we've been in that property a while.
Thank you. Thank you both for your comments. Ms. Gu, do we have any other speaker slips?
No, I do not. I have not received any other public comment slips. Thank you.
And is there anyone on Zoom wishing to make a public comment?
Upon checking Zoom, I do not see any raised hands or any speakers. Thank you.
Very good. And I want to give the designers an opportunity to respond if you wish.
Well, first of all, the home that was on the property where the garage is now located was not historic. We had an intensive and comprehensive historic survey and plan done for the project, for the entire project, when we remodeled and restored the house in 2009. That is on record at the City of Santa Barbara. It is.
It was a post-Hazeltine was the historians that did a thorough report. And so, according to them, it wasn't historic. So, but but it may have been that there certain things got in that location or modified over time, and so it was, And
What was on the ground when we did the remodel was not historic. There is a barn 2 houses down on a Crocker Row home. You could see it on the Google Earth. It is quite large. We don't know what kind of barn there was at 2050. All the research did not ever show us anything that was there. So at the request of the city staff and the Historic Landmarks Commission, we designed the garage to be compatible with the design of the home, which we restored to its original architecture after it had been changed over the years. So to us, to change this garage would mean that we were violating the city codes and requests that were made of us in 2009. We've tried to be incredibly sensitive to this addition on the second level by keeping our plate heights in the corners low, and the windows are needed for egress. There's a very sharp angle. We're 10 feet from their property line and then a driveway. On the other side of their house, they're right up next to the neighbor. So we've got quite a bit of distance on this side, and the angle is very sharp. I doubt that we're going to see into their house. It's going to be easier for them to see into the ADU, quite honestly. I went out there this morning just to check and make sure that we were correct in everything that we were doing, and I can show you photos that pretty much support that.
And I would say there also might be an opportunity for some screening. A well-placed tree that's not too tall can actually potentially do a great job somewhere between there. As if there are sight lines that need some modification or would be nice if they enjoyed that modification, that could be a great way of also looking at it as things go. And there might be some space there. So I think that might be a good way of kind of helping solve some of that, of the views back and forth. I don't think they'll be very, because you're higher, you're going to be looking down and it'll basically, you also have an overhang as well with your roof. It'll probably clip pretty well, and it'll pretty, you're not going to be able to see very far one way or the other, is my guess. But that has, it also has some distance there, so there might be some other ways of sort of managing that, the views within, looking at plants instead of looking across a driveway or that. Oh, okay. But anyways, that might, yeah.
Yeah, thanks for your comments. Much of this discussion is beyond the scope of Staff Hearing Officer.
yeah.
This project is also under review by Historic Landmarks Commission. It was reviewed once and will continue after this hearing. The scope of this hearing is the front setback encroachment along Padre. As you can see on the site plan on the screen, the front setbacks are substantial on this property. We have an existing footprint within that setback along Padre Street. City policies very much support development of accessory dwelling units. Properties like this, it's very tricky because it's a very sensitive historic context and site. So for the setback encroachment, I concur with staff's findings and approve that bit of a project. I expect the conversation to continue with the neighbors through Historic Landmarks Commission and hopefully outside Historic Landmarks Commission as well. And Ms. Gu, could you put the other PowerPoint up, please? Yeah. So this project is also appealable to the Planning Commission. Appeals can be filed in person at 630 Garden Street or through email 10 calendar days after this meeting. If that happens, your planner will inform you, and keeping in mind that this is regarding the front setback encroachment only, and the design will still needs to be approved by Historic Landmarks Commission. So thank you all.
All right, thank you.
And we are moving on to item 2C, 2540 Calle Galicia. This is for a front setback modification to allow an addition to encroach into the secondary front setback. And Mr. Russell is also the planner on this project. And could the designer introduce yourself, please? There's that. Yeah.
Hello, my name is Todd Stockrell from T-Stock Design. I'm the designer for the project.
Very good, thank you. And Mr. Russell, when you're ready.
One moment.
Ms. Gu, if you could switch back, sorry.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Golitz. This is a project at 2540 Calle Galicia. This is a proposal for a 78 square foot addition in the front setback to an existing 1,850 square foot existing residence, and construction of a new 278 square foot second story observation deck with an exterior spiral staircase. Today's purview under the staff hearing officer is to review the front setback modification requested for the 78 square foot addition. So this project is located up on the Mesa area next to Elings Park, pretty much right next door to Elings Park. It's got some steep topography. It's also encumbered by 2 front setbacks. So just to give you some site context, this is zoned RS15, as the rest of the neighborhood as well. So single unit residence is the use up there. And this is also located in the Hillside Design District. So this is the existing site plan. There's an existing covered patio, and of note, 2 existing legally non-conforming encroachments into the setback, both are which encroach about 10 feet each, with leaving a remainder of 20 feet in that total overall 30-foot setback there. So under purview today is a modest addition to the east side of the home, or northeast east side of the home. So it's roughly a 90 square foot addition to accommodate an office space and a bedroom. The hatched area shows the line of the addition here. Roughly 45 square feet of addition is being proposed in that secondary front setback there. And it's in keeping with the existing encroachment, so that existing non-conforming encroachment was 20 feet. This new encroachment is 19 feet 5 inches, so roughly a 6-foot further encroachment into that secondary front setback there. So I think that's pretty much it. To approve this request, the SHO must make the findings recommended in the staff report. Staff believes that the findings are appropriate because it's modest in nature. There's already 2 existing encroachments. It keeps in line with the existing development here. SFDB spoke positively about this, so this has gone before the Single Family Design Review Board. And they had positive comments regarding the addition. And let me show you some other renderings as well to give you a slight idea. So this is that addition there now, and then I think some photos would be helpful too. Maybe I'll just go to Google Maps. So as you can see, the home kind of is kind of well screened as well. This is the west side. A little bit further down the street is where the encroachment is going here. So this is what is being turned into an office space. A small, slight encroachment here. And it's going to keep in line with that existing plane of that home as well. So staff reviewed the project procedural requirements and determined the project is exempt from further environmental review under section 15303. Staff recommends approval of the modification subject to the conditions of approval. And thank you, Mr. Gullett. I'll turn over to the applicant if he wishes to say anything more.
Yeah, and Mr. Stockwell, if you could speak to what portions of this addition and deck actually encroach into that setback.
Sure, no problem. Thanks, William. Did a good job of describing the project. Actually, it's about 6 additional inches that would encroach into the secondary setback, going from 20 feet at 1.5 inches to 19 feet 5 inches. And that is the little additional footprint for the office section of the primary bedroom addition. And then tucked behind that section, that shaded area shows the entire area that encroaches into that secondary setback. So there's actually a little tiny kind of a triangular section in the corner, which we're requesting as an addition into that secondary setback. Then there's a spiral stair proposed and a observation deck above that's kind of outlined in this plan. And if you look at the imagery or any of the aerials, you'll see that there's that covered porch area that's existing. That's basically the footprint that we're adding to. And then the observation deck occurs on the other side of that footprint as well. So everything is occurring in a section of the project where there's already architecture occurring that was already previously obviously permitted before these secondary setback requirements came into play. And so, yes, that's the portion of the project that we're looking to get the modification approval on.
That's good. And just to be clear, the observation deck is outside of that site.
Yes, that's outside of every area. We are going through single-family design to conform to all of the requirements for a second-level deck, to make sure that they're in approval of the design and everything moving forward.
Oh, very good. And I did note the adjacent neighbor has a yellow sign in front of their house and was encouraging you to review whatever is being proposed. I don't know, but I would
Thank you
want
for that.
so-
I did get word from my client just yesterday that there's something that's being proposed, and so we are going to look at all of that.
Yes, very good.
We want to try to make sure that obviously the observation deck is going up in a spot where they're going to have a pretty great view out. And if the next door neighbor is going to just be building architecture to block that, we'd like to see that. So thanks for the
Very
heads
good,
up
yeah.
on that. Yeah.
Good. Thank you. Ms. Gu, did we get any written public comment for this item? I haven't seen any.
No, we did not receive any public comment for this particular item.
And do we have any speaker slips or anyone
No,
online?
I have not
wishing to
received any
speak?
speaker slips, and on checking on Zoom, I do not see any raised hands.
Very good. And I do agree with Mr. Russell's findings, including the CEQA findings for this project. So I can approve this project. And Ms. Gu, if we can put that slide up again. So this, like the others, decision is appealable to the Planning Commission. Appeals can be filed in person or online. And if there is an appeal, Mr. Russell would contact you, Mr. Stockwell. So with that, this meeting is adjourned. Thank you.
Thanks, William.